Okay, I wasn't nervous until about 20 minutes ago. So for Mama C and Papa Bear, I promise that I will try to breathe and to talk slowly. My name is Shannon, and I'm a very grateful believer in Jesus. Dave asked us to speak today because today is about love and the story of Hosea and Gomer. In our 11-year journey, both Ken and I have been at one time or another Hosea and or Gomer. I want to share with you some stuff about me first. I was a wild party girl throughout my teens. I drank, did drugs, sold drugs, had multiple sexual encounters. I lived on the streets for a time in my late teens, and I ended up pregnant at 20. My baby's father went to jail for killing his best friend when I was 3 months pregnant. I had my beautiful baby girl in 1992 at 21 years old. I was terrified.
I was born in 1970 in Edmonton, and I was adopted at the age of 2. And when they showed up, I was very anxious. Like most adoptees, I struggled to connect with my family, and I ended up spending a majority of my 14 and 15 years in juvenile detention centers. I went to 4 different high schools, and I still dropped out in grade 10. I got married when I was 20, and we had a son named Colton. That marriage lasted 2 years, and it wasn't what she wanted, so she left with Colton and moved to Alberta to seek the life that she was looking for, and I was absolutely devastated, because in my mind, marriage was forever.
This is how it all started. God brought me and my soon-to-be husband, Ken, in October of 1993, when my daughter, Haley, was just over a year old. I had never been with anyone like him. He was a good boy. As an example, when I told my mother I had met someone, after she rolled her eyes repeatedly, I said, no, he's different. He doesn't have a criminal record, no tattoos, a job, a car, and all of his own teeth. My father said, and when she brings him here, pretend you don't like him, because if we like him, he's going to go away.
We actually met when we were waiters at a Chinese buffet restaurant, and truth be told, she didn't actually like me very much. But I eventually won her over because I did her work for her when she wanted to leave early. Soon after that, I moved in with her and Haley, and she loved me. The problem was that I was, sorry, I'm getting emotional about all this, my story. She's told her story many times, it's the first time I ever told mine. The problem was that I was pretty bitter from my divorce, so I wouldn't let her in. And the loss of my marriage, I couldn't let her in, and even after 2 years, I was still struggling to let her in. One day she said, okay, I can't do this anymore. So I said, okay, leave. And we broke up for 2 days. And then I missed her. And then I was like, uh-oh, I really do love this woman.
So we were in a serious relationship and living together for 2.5 years. He asked me to marry him, but there was a condition. He wanted us to go to church and to be baptized. I really wanted to get married. So I said, okay. God found me in April of 1996. We were baptized together in June and married in August. We had a good marriage. We were blessed with our daughter, Olivia, in 1998, and we were active in our church. My father passed away in 2002, and I started to backslide, drinking a little more every week.
Our first 10 years were not perfect, but overall I thought they were pretty great. We actually had evangelized every single one of our friends, and we had a whole section of the church just where we all sat. There was about 6 couples, and we had good jobs, good friends, and a good life, and we were running youth ministry, and it was a good place. But then, everything changed. I'm kidding. I didn't want to do this. On April 24th, 2007, everything changed, and nothing was ever the same again. Our son Colton, who was 15 years old, had suddenly died. I can't really tell you how surreal that moment is, because there's nothing on the planet quite like it. You can't really compare it to anything. And even though I didn't realize it until years later, you kind of live really detached from reality after that. He essentially died from complications to throat infection, and the infection just got out of his control and his throat closed. It was like a bomb had blown up in the middle of our life, and everything was affected. The truth is, we had no idea how to handle it, and I don't know if anybody could. And could anybody prepare for that? I mean, so we did what we felt we should. We survived. We went to our natural survival techniques. I returned back to work in 2 weeks, and Shannon started drinking and fell apart. I walled up and pushed her away. I remember her literally begging to just let go, to let loose, just to break down, and I just absolutely couldn't. And I said to her, I said, well, if I break down, then who's going to take care of everybody around here? And so she just got more sad, and I just got more walled up.
There are moments in your life that are the game changers. The moments when you know nothing is ever going to feel the same. This was that moment for our family. Our life blew up. Ken in his grief shut me out, repressing all of his feelings. And me, I regressed back to my old ways, coping how I knew best how to. Partying nonstop, drinking daily, shopping, hair, clothing, tanning, me. Anything to make me feel okay, but nothing was okay. I drowned my feelings because I couldn't handle them. One comment Ken made that's always stuck out to me was like I was like a little fly buzzing around his head that he just wanted to slap away. I was spiraling. I was racked with guilt, feeling like a burden. We stopped connecting. Ken threw himself into the church and running his youth group, and I threw myself back into the world. I was alone a lot. I was drinking nightly after I was done work and the kids were in bed. Sometimes they weren't in bed. An old friend searched me out on social media. He knew all the right things to say to make me feel like I was important and needed and not a burden. I became obsessed with this friendship, craving the attention. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. It was like a drug to me. Sorry. The more I had, the more I needed. I was such a mess. I didn't know what to do, so I left my family to figure myself out. The friendship continued, and I ended up in a physical relationship with this person, even moving in with him into the basement suite that Ken and I had built together in my mom's house. This relationship was a nightmare. This person was an active drug addict who was involved in crime. He cheated on me, he stole from me, he stole from my family, and he lied to me over and over, and I would cry to Ken about this stuff. I was so ashamed, so I drank more and more. My life was a series of mistakes and messes that I couldn't clean up. I had no joy, no peace, I had nothing.
I remember the day that she told me about this other guy, and I think I was just numb. And looking back on that, I think I was just on autopilot for years. And after that, she moved in with me for 2 years, and then 2 years later, she came back and slept on the couch for 2 years.
Somehow I ended up moving back home after 2 years to Ken and the girls. Ken was very hurt and angry, and I was a drunken mess, so we just coexisted. I continued on my wild party girl ways, and Ken went his own way. People were praying, I know that now. 2012 came, and not much had changed, but it was about to. In Ezekiel 36:36, God says that he will rebuild what was destroyed. This is where the rebuilding would start, but I had to be destroyed first. My relationship with Ken and the girls was severely damaged. I drank heavily, focused on the worldly things, trying desperately to numb myself and drown out that still soft voice that was calling me. I was unsuccessfully running a cleaning company with a friend who, for lack of a better word, was difficult. I took over the business, and I ended up ending the partnership and the friendship, and I took off to Vegas to get drunk for 5 days. Upon my return, I found out that my mother was very ill in the hospital. I drank even more. My days consisted of work, home, drink, drive to the hospital, drink, more, bed, repeat. My mother died in June. I drank. My daughter Haley came out as gay. I drank. My solution to everything was to get loaded. I was out of control. In September, as I was sitting on my porch having a beer with my friend, my neighbor told me that my house was in foreclosure. Ken asked me for a trial separation. Now, we disagree on this part. I still think I'm right. I remember. A short time later, I found out about his friend.
Shannon had moved out of the home for 2 years, and when they broke up, she wanted to move back. She didn't want to move back as my wife. She wanted to move back and support me with the kids. So I said, okay. I think I said okay because I thought that that was the right thing to do. It wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to do. I just felt like it was the right thing to do. But during that time, the stress of running her own company and the alcohol abuse has increased, and I felt like she just got meaner and drunker. One day I looked at Olivia, our daughter, and I thought, if your husband is treating you like this, I wouldn't put up with it. So I decided that that was the end of it. So this is where we disagree. So then I asked Shannon for a divorce. She was livid, and that just sent me over the brick. Because all through the marriage, I felt like I was powerless, and now I was powerless trying to get out. So at this time, there was also a new person in my life, that was speaking into my life, and it was making me feel so different than what I had always felt, and I was desperate to feel something good.
Well, at that time, I was really messed up, and the drinking was no longer helping me. December 14th found me on my knees in a client's bathroom, begging God to let me die. This interlude was a turning point for me. I begged God, please, 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 just let me die. I mess everything up, I'm bad. I have no reason, no purpose. Please just let me die. In my anguish, I heard a voice, and it simply said, no. Oh, are you kidding me? Why not, I said. God then just said, no, you're not done. You're going to fight to live. Fight for your family. Fight for your marriage, because together you're stronger. I was like, dude, really? Did you see what I did to my marriage? What I did to Ken? I had a serious guilty conscience of everything. I was always guilty. My mom kind of did that, so I didn't actually ever see what I did. I just apologized for it. So God said, yes, and I did, and now you're going to see. And in that instant, the blinders came off, and I saw the ugly, ugly truth of what I had done. I felt sick, horrified at what I had become. I repented to God in that instant on the bathroom floor. I left that room changed that day. I was drinking still, but it was different. I repented to Ken for real the next day, but it only made him more angry, more intent to be with the other person. We did go out drinking that New Year's Eve. I got super drunk and I hit him. I thought I just pushed him. He told me I throat punched him. I knew that obviously I needed to quit drinking after that, so January 1st was the day. Everything was so ugly. I was so confused. I asked God, what do I do now? Stand, he said. So I stood. I started to immerse myself in the Bible, praying all the time. God gave me, at the very beginning, a verse, Galatians 6:9. I have it tattooed on my arm here as a constant reminder. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. I heard about CR from Carol Lee, and I started attending. I now actually lead a group there. Isabel. It was a very tough time at home. Ken was seldom home, and I was alone a lot trying to stay sober. But God. January 31st, I found out that I was pregnant with Isabel. I actually went to 2 different doctors to make sure that it was real. Who knew unprotected sex with your husband 2 times at 41 could get you pregnant? God did. I was so scared to tell Ken. I waited over a week, actually, and on advice from my counselor, I emailed him this news. He was furious, blaming me, saying that I did it on purpose. Ken was intent on his pursuit of happiness. He was a hurt and an angry man, and after everything that happened, could I really blame him? He left me alone with Libby and our dog in the foreclosure, and he went on his way. God in his infinite mercy surrounded me with love, amazing friends, and restored relationships with my girls and a relatively easy pregnancy.
So I guess up until this time, it looks like Shannon's pretty bad, right? You know what? I had all my demons too, but at that point, she was the whole focus. But guess what? I fixed that. And I switched it. She told me about, we slept together twice when we were fighting about the divorce. But it just felt like pain. It just felt like she was manipulating me. She just wanted to sleep with me because I asked her for a divorce. So I couldn't do it. I was super upset when she was pregnant. This is one of these things that I'm eternally ashamed of myself for, because I have daughters, and I love children, and I wanted children, and for me to be so upset, especially now that I look at Isabel's face, I'm ashamed of it. So, she said she was pregnant, and I just felt like, you're manipulating me. You did that on purpose. So I said, no, I'm not coming back. I raised these kids without you, I'll raise that one without you too. That wasn't true, she was there. But I was just so mad I couldn't see straight. So I ended up walking away from my pregnant wife in a home that was in a foreclosure. And I can't even believe that was me. Like, I can't even believe I did that, but I really couldn't see anything else. Ken's journey. During all this time, I had met someone. This person spoke into my life in ways that I hadn't heard in a long time. She was like heroin. the great escape, the complete opposite of everything that I felt in my marriage for the last 4 years. I felt like this was breath and life. I couldn't see anything else. I literally plunged into that relationship. I gave up my alpha leadership. I gave up my job at Pacific Light Bible College. And when I was confronted, I doubled down on that relationship. I didn't want to go back to the pain. You couldn't convince me. You couldn't drag me back. Obviously, starting a relationship like that wasn't very good. And there was a lot of issues, and there was a lot of negative attention. And soon we were struggling. But the more I felt persecuted, the closer it actually brought us together. So we just kept fighting. Though publicly we looked really happy, and on Instagram we looked happy, privately we had a lot of fights and there was a lot of stress in our relationships. 2 things stuck out for me at this time. The first was that I was expecting a strong conviction from God. That, Christian man walked away from his wife, you think, man, I'm going to get smoked. It wasn't like that. He was calm. He was stable. He was patient. He was loving. He was there. He was there. And it wasn't this harsh persecution that I thought was going to happen. It was a far-off voice of love. The second one was that all throughout that, I could never get permission to divorce Shannon. In my heart, I couldn't do it. I just never felt like he gave me permission. He just kept saying, nope, nope. And one time, I actually even got frustrated and said, okay, that's it. I'm divorcing Shannon, and I'm doing this because obviously it wasn't going well for my other relationship. And God was like, you can, go ahead. And I was like, oh. And I could feel this pull in my chest. And I knew that I was about to make a decision. It was going to be my will or his will, right there. I'm not sure I was going to lose my salvation, but I was going to lose something, and I felt it. So I couldn't divorce her. I just had to stay put. Of course, that just kept frustrating that person I was with, and eventually the bad days outweighed the goods. So I ended up walking away from that relationship, and I just decided I was going to be single for at least a year.
During this time, God was healing my heart and comforting me. I remember his soft voice telling me I had to walk through these consequences that I had brought on myself. And he wouldn't shield me from them, but he was going to walk through them with me. The next 4 years, I prayed for this marriage. I prayed for Ken, letting God have his way with me. There were days that I was hanging on by my fingernails. God was there, sometimes dragging me, kicking and screaming. You know. He faithfully walked with me when I wanted to give up. When all I saw was how happy Ken appeared. Cried out to God, he would just say, just wait, trust me. So I did. In March of 2017, God called me to a 40-day fast of no complaining. This sounds much easier than it actually was. But I dug my heels in and I committed myself to it. And in that time, I realized that no matter what happens, God is good, and I was going to be okay. I let Ken go into his hands totally at that time. One day at the end of this fast, Ken texted me, asking me if I could call him when I was by myself. I remember saying, well, that sounds ominous. I was terrified of what he was going to say. So I threw on some worship music, and I praised Jesus, and then I called Ken. Ken called to tell me that he had broken up with this other person and was moving into his own place. I was stunned. I got off the phone, I parked at Walmart, and I cried, and I praised God for what I'd been praying for 4 years had finally happened. The next year was still difficult. Sometimes, this is the comeback, I'm sorry. The next year was difficult, sometimes more so than before when he was actually with the other person. But gradually, things started to change, and we talked more. We talked in June about what we wanted out of a relationship, and I invited him to the drive-in on Father's Day. The next week, we worked out together, and we went for dinner after. We were becoming friends again, getting to know each other as the people that we had become. We spent our anniversary together, and Ken bought me a card for the first time in years. We went to visit my best friend in Oliver the week after that, and when my niece got married in September, he matched my outfit and he went as my date. Soon we were hanging out all the time. He asked me to go to Vegas, and we booked a trip. We were still just dating, but we then started talking about moving back in together.
All through this time, the entire time, Shannon was very consistent about reaching out to me. I'm your wife. You need to give me another chance. I'm your wife. You've never known me as a sober woman. You need to give me another chance. And I just blew it off the entire time. For 5 years, she did this. But once I was single, God had gone from passive and quiet to stronger and louder. And I started to realize that his will was for me to reconcile. So we have this joke that I kind of came back into the relationship kicking and screaming. Because an example of that is we went to my dad's funeral, Shannon came with me, and I was at this time living single. And everybody at the funeral was coming up to me going, oh my goodness, she's so nice. And they knew her for many years. So she's so nice, Ken, she's so nice, she's easy to talk to. And I was like, I hated it. Because if I had to admit that she had changed, then I would have to change too. You know? And then I would have to forgive her. And then I would have to take ownership of some of the stuff that I needed to do. And I wasn't quite ready. So she invited me to the drive-in. We started talking about what we wanted in life. It just so happened that some of the stuff that I wanted in life, she could now give me. And you think that this happens just like one day you open your eyes and you fall madly in love together and then it's all. That's not the case. The case is that it's awkward and it's full of fear and it hurts. And you see way down there and you see all these walls. And you go, God, how am I going to do this? And he goes, just take a step. And you take a step and that wall falls down. And he goes, take another one. And then that wall falls down. And that's how this works. It's not done because you want to. It's not done because you're la la in love. It's not. It's one step at a time. And some of those steps you did just because you're trying to be obedient. But they pay off. And the more we stepped, the more the walls fell down, the more free we became, the more we felt his favor. Favor has been an interesting word for us lately. He's been showing us tremendous favor as we knock these walls down, or he knocks them down for us.
We announced our official back together status on Facebook on the Thursday that we were coming home from Vegas. And we were thinking to renew our views, our vows on our original wedding date of August 10th. This journey has taught me so much about God and his love for all of us and his love for marriage. I am blown away by his faithfulness even when we are so unfaithful.
So where are we right now? Well, we're definitely heading back together. And I think we're pretty committed to that. We're going to renew our vows in August. And everybody can come if they like. It's a testimony to God. But what did we learn? We learned a lot. God is deeply committed to marriage. Realize that if we're Christians and we got born in the name of God, he sanctified our marriage. And he actually actively fights for that sanctification. Yeah. It's not my will, it's his. Because I brought him in on that when we got married in his name. He fights for that sanctification, and you just don't even realize how much until we give up. So it really came down to his will versus mine. He never freaked out. Not that God freaks out, but he never freaked out. I never ever felt that for 1 second that in a weird way he was always sovereign over this entire thing. I never felt like he panicked. I never felt like he went away. He just stayed. He just stayed put, and he stayed in our hearts, and he just kept comforting us and talking to us. He knew we were hurt. You know, he knew we were devastated. And he had big plans for us. Shannon is part of a group. You should probably talk about that group.
Yeah, on Facebook, I met a woman about 3 years ago, and she actually told me that she saw this moment 3 years ago, that Ken and I would be standing in front of people talking. We became great friends. We've never met each other, but she started a group for standing for marriages, and it has 3,500 people. And as I read the posts and I see people what they're saying. I hear what their spouse is saying to them because I said it to him, or he said it to me. Satan is very predictable, but we all fall for it. So I don't know. It's pretty smart sometimes, I guess, too. There was a couple that had been restored, Dustin and Jessica, and they went to the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, and I put a prayer in for Ken and I told Ken that. And then, and I also met through this, I met a woman named Asia who had been restored after 10 years, after she had 2 physical affairs, and she was here in September. David, you met Asia and John, and yeah, it's huge. You have no idea what's happening to marriages, like everywhere. And I think we really need to be strongly praying for them because they do mean something to God. He loves marriage, it's his heart.
What does that tell me? It tells me that prayer matters. Prayer is effective. If you think it's not effective, we'll tell you it is. I had a lady walk up to me and tell me, it always makes me emotional, but she's like, if you don't know me, she goes, but I've been praying for you and your marriage for 6 years. She's standing there while I have my arms around Shannon. Nobody saw that coming. How many people have come to me and said, I've been praying for you guys for 2 years. I've been praying to you guys for 6 months. Prayer matters. Prayer is the reason why we're standing here. I'm 100% certain of that. God listens to prayer. Marriage means something to God. He's fully committed to our marriages. And if you think about it, the fastest way to destroy a nation, the fastest way to destroy hope, connection, family, is to destroy a marriage. One more story I want to tell you guys. This is my own personal thing that God taught me. So, I walked away from my pregnant wife and I left her at foreclosure to go be with somebody else. And I walked away from all of my Christian jobs and all my Christian stuff, and I didn't go to church anymore. And I lost all of my friends and I lost everybody. And I was counseling in my office because I'm a professional counselor, and I could feel God in that office. I could feel God working through me with my clients. So after my client left, I said, hey, why are you still here? Why are you here? Everybody else is gone. But you're still here. And I said, I don't get that, because everything I understand about you is that sin separates me from God. And he said, Ken, that's not the way it works. And I'm about to show you something about love, and I'm about to show you something about grace. And I knew at that moment, I knew darn well that I didn't deserve to go to heaven. There was no way I was going to heaven. If anybody was going to heaven, that was me. I was the poster child for how to throw your life away. But I knew at that moment I was. And it didn't have anything to do with me. It had everything to do with him. Yeah. His promise, his faithfulness, his grace, his patience, and his commitment to us. I needed that lesson. Because reading about grace and singing about grace is so much different than experiencing grace. So thanks for hearing our story.